In three, two. All right, it's time to talk with our featured guest, Dr. Paul Yu. Paul, how's it going, man?
Hey, good, good. I'm glad that we could connect. It's good out here.
Yeah, man, that's good. Is it already nighttime out there or no?
No, no, it's I just got off work earlier. It's about 2 o'clock.
Oh my god. See what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I totally failed geography. I didn't even know it was like hours behind, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's cool, man.
We're always behind.
Yeah, that's cool that your schedule's already you're off at too, over there.
Yeah, yeah. I usually I started just now working from 7 to about 10.
Mhm.
Um uh my Thursdays are my longest days and I work till 12.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, that's good, man. So before we jump into that and the business and everything like that, let's talk story, man. Tell me
Yeah,
a
we
little
can
bit
talk
about
story.
tell me a little bit about your past, your present. How'd you get to where you are today?
Oh my, that's gonna take a little longer than just a few minutes here, but I mean, and what aspects or what part of this journey should we hop on? Because it's been a long journey. We're talking dental school, or right after dental school, or how I got the pet practice started, or how I ended up in Kauai, or there's so many different parts to this story.
Yeah, let's talk before dental school, realizing like you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do dentistry. And then
Yeah,
up from
so
then.
so in growing up, because of my religious affiliation, I was raised to kind of be involved in a lot of these like mission trips and charity work and whatnot. So I had a little taste of overseas work when I was like 17 through 21, and I enjoyed going overseas and just working with other dentists, doing short-term extraction clinics or dental clinics throughout different parts of the world. And I've always kind of had that in my pocket in terms of the experience. And as I went to college and whatnot, I wasn't a pre-dent major. I got a business degree, and I was working, and I realized I wanted to do a little more. I just didn't like the idea of being stuck in a cubicle and just crunching numbers and writing letters to the clients and whatnot. And
Mhm.
so eventually I decided to go back to something that will give me what I enjoyed, which was at that time, I enjoyed the traveling aspects of it, just because the whole world just became real to me as I went into these service trips. And I also like the idea of giving back, being a part of this larger global family, and to be able to use your skill set to make a difference if possible. And that
Mhm.
is kind of how I embarked on this journey. And so I went back to school and took some prerequisites to enter into dental school. And from there, upon finishing dental school, my wife and I moved to Africa for 6 years,
Oh
uh,
wow.
to a country called Zambia, which is in the southern part of the African continent, landlocked by 8 different countries. And so I ran a dental clinic there. My wife is an ophthalmologist, so she ran an eye hospital there, providing surgical care. And yeah, we went there without any kids. We came back with three, and we realized we have other responsibilities now. It's not just our passion and pursuit of making a change in the community, but we had to make sure that our kids are taught, and that we give them the best opportunities to carry on the work that we've started.
Yeah. Man. So you moved to Africa for 6 years. Why there?
Um, there was a need there. I think it was a good situation where there was an eye hospital that was in need of an eye surgeon, and there was a dental clinic that was in need of a dentist. And this was ran through a religious organization, and they have hospitals throughout developing countries. And so we were able to get plugged in there. And um, so, yeah, I mean, it was a good fit for us. They spoke English, although they have 70 something tribal dialect. It was easier for us to acclimate because it was colonized by the Brits at one point.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. And then so you decided to move from there where?
from Africa, from
Yeah.
Zambia.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Zambia. After our 6 years, we realized we've achieved what we wanted to, which was to create a sustainable model of healthcare. Yes, we were always somewhat indirectly dependent on some form of charity or aid, but for the most part, both of our institutions were self-sustaining. We're generating a profit. We're serving the community. We're buying our own equipment. We weren't really dependent on donations, or we call it like junks for Jesus. Where you get the hand-me-downs that are just archaic that you can't even use there. And so from there, we decided to move back to the U.S. We were looking at different jobs. Mainly, I wanted to make sure that my wife could be happy, because I felt like I could kind of do dentistry anywhere. It was a lot easier. So she ended up finding a job on the island of Kauai. I'm from the island of Oahu, so I have some roots back in the state of Hawaii. And my wife is born and raised in Southern California, but she acclimated fairly well, and she just fit right into the island life. And so we ended up coming to the island of Kauai, and she started as an associate working for someone. And after a month of, I was working for as an associate for 1 month, and after that, I'm like, I can't do this, and I just decided to just build my own, and that's the story.
Nice, man. So then, you never, growing up, thought to yourself like, I want to own my own practice. You kind of just said, I wanted to do dentistry, and then after working with the associate, you're like, all right, I can't do this. I'm going to own my own practice.
Yeah, I mean, it was never. The field of dentistry was very. I mean, it was an unfamiliar field. I had no ties, no relatives or whatnot that were in the field, so I had no knowledge of what it was about growing up. So I didn't really find any interest until I was probably in my early 20s. Maybe like 22, 23. That's when I learned a little bit more about it. And that's when I decided to go back to school to pursue the prerequisites that was necessary to apply into dental school. So upon returning from Zambia, working as an associate, I was just too frustrated. I felt that I could easily do this. Perhaps it was because of our time in Africa, just working with less resources, working in more complex, challenging situations that we could still make it. And so everything seemed much easier when you have access to vendors, suppliers. You have actual rules and laws that makes it easier to function.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So then from the moment you decided, or the moment you started working for the associate, what were some things where you were like, I never want to take this to my practice? But then what were also some things where you were like, oh my gosh, this is actually a good system. I'm going to implement this in my own thing.
Yeah, well, it gets a little sticky, but I mean, I didn't like, as an associate, you work and you want to take care of the patients, and that's the easy part. But I think there were some unethical parts that I didn't feel comfortable with, and I felt like it wasn't right. And one being was that I was an employee, yet as a W-2 employee, yet he would charge me his business tax to me, and I would pay my portion of the tax. So I was paying two taxes.
What?
Yeah, and I called him out. I said, this is not appropriate. This is not correct, and I've never ever dealt with this kind of arrangement. He said, this is how we do it. And that wasn't so, because he didn't treat any other employees that way. And from that day on, I said, I'm done. I mean, I rather eat rice and beans than to be a part of this, just because I just felt like it wasn't right.
Yeah. Plus rice and beans are pretty good too. So, I mean, it's a win-win right there.
For sure.
But okay. Wow, man. I didn't know that. So it was mainly because of the unethical stuff. You felt like you didn't take anything away from that practice where you're like, I learned something here, or no?
Not really, because I was just there for a month. Yeah, I worked there for a month, and I realized like this isn't gonna be for me. But prior, I guess I have to go backtrack a little. After I graduated, I was waiting for my wife to finish up her residency and fellowship. So I had 3 years upon graduation to work in different types of practices, and which I did. Part of it was in Southern California, and part of it was in Rhode Island, so the west to the east. And so I had different experiences from all of that, and I think that helped um, help me decide, what I wanted to do in terms of do I have the ability to open a practice? Do I have the confidence? Can I actually do it? And do I have the skill set to actually make it? And so I felt pretty good about moving forward.
Got you. So how long ago was this?
In terms of opening the practice,
Yeah, like where you, so for example, you quit your associateship after 1 month, and then from that point on, you decided, like, did you acquire a practice immediately, or what happened after that?
no, I was just so fed up. And after I quit, I said, I'm going to do this myself. I mean, there's no way I can't make this work.
Yeah.
And so I just found space. I found space and we call it chicken scratch, a floor plan.
Mhm.
And I did this all the wrong way, right? So I did it myself. I said, this is how I want my room size. And we moved a few walls um, and I was heavily involved in something that I wasn't familiar with, yet it didn't
Mhm.
seem overly complicated. We're just putting some square rooms and running plumbing and electrical through conduits, whatnot. It just didn't seem that complex. And so I just found space and we built a practice. And it wasn't a very large practice. It's 1,500 square feet, has about 4 ops. And so I mean, that was about 3 years now.
Wow. And you still have the same practice?
Yes.
Man, okay. How do you have the money and the funds already saved up for that, or you went to a bank to get loan?
This is the most bizarre thing. I didn't have the money. I didn't have much just because, you know, I didn't have a job.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, uh, the interesting thing was that when I negotiated with the landlord of the building, I asked him that I can't pay rent until I actually start working,
Yeah.
because there's so many delays and it's just everything's on island time that construction can be much longer than most places. And so he was willing to give me 6 months, but I knew it may take me more than 6 months to build out a place. And so he agreed on the terms that when I open, then my rent is due. So I had that protected. As for a contractor, I was working with a guy that he just wanted to get started. So he wanted 20,000 as just a startup payment, which I paid. And after that, he didn't come back for the rest of his money till today. I owe him a little over $100,000, and yet it's the most bizarre. I mean, it's the craziest thing. Just because I see him around, I say, yeah, let you know I got your money. I'm not going anywhere. And he's like, yeah, I know, I'll come get it. But I'm thinking, like, if it's over $100,000, a little over $100,000, that's, you can make a lot of interest off that. But
Yeah.
we're on like year 3, and he still is not knocking on my doors whatsoever. It's this craziest thing. In some ways, I'm like, maybe some random rich people gifted me this practice or something. I don't know. I have no words. I talk about this to my various reps, Patterson,
Yeah.
and they're just like, this is the craziest thing. No one would even do that. Most contractors want their money yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. So where did you find this contractor? How'd you find him?
I found him because the landlord of the building, he uses him quite a bit to do a lot of other projects in the commercial space. But
Okay.
he had no like dental background, no knowledge. Even I didn't, but somehow we're able to kind of pull it together and say, okay, this is how we want it, and we kind of built it as build, we call it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got you. How much was it in total then? The whole space?
Well, I hope it's 20,000 because that's what I paid him. But I mean, roughly it should be maybe like, we were initially agreeing on about 120,000.
Okay, for 4. That's a good deal, man. That's really good.
No, it's a spanking good deal. There's no
Yeah.
way anyone would even consider even looking at your stuff for that kind of. But he didn't really know what he was doing in terms of like building out demo. I was heavily involved, just kind of guiding, and I was there every day because I had no job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he feels bad because he's like, man, you were there all the time. Or maybe he's like, I don't know what I did, but I did it and I feel bad taking the rest of the money. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like,
I don't know, but I mean, things got to cost money. I mean, we got like quartz countertops. We got you got some
Yeah.
bells and whistles. It's not cheap, and he had to pay all the subs. You got the electricians, the plumbers, and the drywall. You still got to pay them out. He wasn't doing the work.
Yeah. That's so
So it's
interesting,
it's
man.
crazy. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not saying much more. I just tell him like, let you know I'm here, not going anywhere, and I got your money. At one point, just let me know a couple months in advance so I can actually start giving you that money.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's cool, man. So then how long was there any delays? How long did it take for that? Because you said island time, so I'm sure there's like it's a little slower, I would say. Or
Yeah, I
no?
mean, yes and no. I think we have what you call like permit expediters. People who I don't know. I guess it's a legal thing because they call themselves expediters and they help expedite the permit.
Mhm.
And that just means that they go and knock on various county departments to get these things approved. And I think sometimes they bring like malasadas or some kind of donuts to kind of to massage that process. I don't know. Perhaps some people might think it's bribery or whatnot, but it's pretty common in this I would say Asian cultural setting, Polynesian
Yeah.
cultural. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So then from that point on, did you do a demographic check before or anything like that? Or now you just said, hey, I'm going to open up here and that's it. And then started, you build out and everything?
Yeah. I didn't see again, like all of these things I didn't do. I mean, I'm the one who drew up the plan. Like, think about it. I have no experience and I had no knowledge. I didn't even know what a proper checking countertop height should be. All of those things were just kind of like just eyeballing it.
Yeah.
Somehow it worked out. But in terms of like the demographic studies and stuff like that, I've always been a firm believer that there's always room for another good dentist. If you're doing
Yeah.
good work and you provide ethical, compassionate care that's fair, I think there's always room. I mean, no matter where you are, Hawaii in numbers tend to seem like it's a pretty saturated market, but there's always room.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. So then from that point on, right now, looking back from the practice you're working at, what are there any changes you would make to the design or anything like that or not?
Oh yeah, yeah, most definitely. So I'm in the process of building out an 8 operatory space
Wow.
now. It's going to be in about we have about 2,800 square feet to play with.
Mhm.
And so that is where I'm building out the 8 operatories. And so, yeah, there are several things I would like. Keep in mind, like in the whole state of Hawaii, most of the dental offices are very, very small. Just the real estate is just too high to support just multi uh, multi specialist facilities where you have large clinics and offices. So it's a little unique. And so yeah, we would like to have large, whether it's washer room, washer dryer room, or whether it's a staff lounge, whether all of those things. It is possible, but you have to sacrifice something for it. And so going forward, I think with a new build out, I probably work a little more closely with whether it's Patterson, whether it's Henry Schein, or some of the distributors, um, and also invest in things that will probably last much longer, whether it's ADAC cabinetries or um, or
Mhm.
even certain types of countertops and whatnot. And so, I mean, I think I've come to a point where I like to have nicer things that will last, though it's a little more pricey. But I think our patients would appreciate that. And yeah, some people would say that's not what brings money, but I think it's the whole experience of it all, right? Like,
Yeah.
why do like hotels, if they're only selling rooms, have very large lobby areas, right? And you spend so much money in decorating and making it nice and giving you that wow experience. I think it's the same concept that I want when people walk in, they'll be like, wow, and I can tell like he put some thought into this. And
Yeah.
where my staff can feel comfortable working, where they have adequate space to do their thing, and whether it's the lounge, whether it's rooms to work out of. So I mean, I'm excited about the new build out. Um, um, I just hope we get it permitted soon because we're still waiting for permits.
Yeah. How much is your build out or your new build out costing?
I haven't run the numbers, but I haven't run the numbers mainly because we are still finalizing drawings,
Hmm.
and um, this may be off topic or tangent, but it's just what I did. What we did was during the pandemic, there
Hmm.
was a fourplex movie cinema complex here in town, just centrally located, and the owners went belly up and they just ran off,
Oh wow.
uh, and the landowners, needed to liquidate their assets, the building itself, because the landowners own hotels in the Hawaiian island chain, and during the pandemic, it was, there were 10% occupancy, so they were bleeding, and so they had to load assets to help cover, you know, service their loans. And I think it
Hmm.
was a good timing where, it gave us an opportunity. So we bought that building with 4 theater space in there, and so the build out is phased out into many different parts. Therefore, it's hard to say how much maybe the dental part's going to be, because we're building apartments above, the dental space.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's
So
actually going to be good, I think, right? Like,
yeah, yeah, it is, because then you already have the vertical height of the building. So
mhm.
I'm not changing the height. I already have the ceiling height. It's about like 25 feet or 23 feet. So if I make, 9 feet ceilings on the bottom, 9 feet ceilings on top, and we have space, so it's just, I think it's a better investment and use of the space.
Yeah, it is. And that's kind of cool because like if there's people above you, I mean, that's great marketing. You know what I mean? Like you can, could you market to those type of people? I mean, those residents?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if yeah, I mean, well, I mean, where the new build out's going to be, we
Yeah.
probably have like 6 dentists within 100 yards. So it's just a place where a lot of professionals are. We have medical groups and whatnot. So, um, I mean, they'll come, and yeah, I can market to them if they want to come, and I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's going to be good. So then focusing on like your business right now, how many employees do you have?
We have 8.
Oh wow, hey, that's good, man. How did you find them or how'd you hire them?
Well, we've gone through some challenges. The first 2.5 years was, I would say, um, really good years. I started the practice with just three of us, including myself. So I had one front, one back, and me. But I was so fortunate to have two veterans, one the front and the back. They had over 20 years as an RDA in California, so they were out here living and working with me, and we started this thing from scratch. And it was just an amazing ride. Like we've had numbers that definitely was real good. uh,
Mhm.
and and after when the COVID hit, I lost those two due to the spouse or the parents not feeling good in the mainland, so they had to move off the island. And then I ran into the problems that most people are running into, which is a shortage of 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 team members and whatnot. I've
Mhm.
I've always kind of held on to the belief that if I build, people will come. If I
Yeah.
build and create a culture, they would come. Like I felt like if I can be the next Google and provide a culture where beyond just the compensation, a place where they can feel safe and be happy and they feel like they are growing and in training and knowledge, then people would value that. And so I was pretty dogmatic and held on to that belief, and I still believe that it is a way of retaining people that value that type of stuff. But how do you get there when the market is so short-handed? It's and so uh,
Mm.
I ran into some problems because uh, I had two assistants after 2 years, two back assistants, and we were humming nicely. And I lost those two back assistants, and now I had no assistants. And I found one out of high school.
Hmm.
We had to train from scratch, and
Yeah.
she was technically, when I had those other two assistants before they left. The high school girl was our sterilization tech, just to get her groomed up. But it happened so quickly where I lost those two assistants and she had to step up. And it was, frustrating at times, um, um, but she was young, 18 years old, and we just started working, but I needed more support staff. So I hired two others. And so I have currently three assistants with less than 1 year of experience. But we've trained them internally. I've taken a few of them to courses, not so much for assisting, but for CAD CAM training and whatnot. And so I think they've really they're starting to blossom, and I think it's really working out. And yeah, they're excited because they're learning new things, and they
Yeah.
have a job that's stable. And so yeah, I mean, I run into the same problems as everyone else. Like my front girls, I have two. One is an RDA, so she's pretty stable. The other one is learning. She learned on the fly as well on the job, and it's almost like you get to desperate times and you have to kind of tighten your belt and just whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
Roll up your sleeve, whatever you take.
How did you do that though? How did you like reach out to like the people, find these people first and foremost? Like, oh, you're from high school, right? Like, I'm pretty sure you didn't like just go around and, you know what I
I
mean?
think
Like,
so. I tried like the Indeed, I tried the Facebook, I tried Craigslist, and it was just kind of like all over the place because everyone's looking, and when everyone's looking, it's just hard to find. Hard to how do I say it? It was when everyone's looking, it's hard to as a dental office, we didn't have the leverage. It's always
mhm.
they would be interested, but you have to play and you have to on their terms, and it may not be unreasonable, but we I wanted to make sure I had someone who had the proper attitude, and I felt like we just didn't find anyone at that time. And so um, so internally we had some of the existing team members, and they were able to I said, do you know anyone that's dependable and that's reliable and that's at least for me it was honesty, like I can
Mhm.
help out with all the other areas, but I need someone who's honest because I'm just so busy staying in my circle of work that I cannot be cross-checking and auditing. I just don't have the energy nor the time. And
Yeah.
so we were able to find a lot of them. I would say out of the eight, six of them are from internally, like referred, like, and we train
Mhm.
them, and yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's good. So then that kind of leads me to another question. Like, do you never audit the other employees' work, or like what do you audit?
Yeah, so when I talk about audit, it's mainly talking about, okay, is we have a list of things to do, whether it's maintenance, right? Are
Mhm.
you cleaning out are you shocking the lines, are you cleaning out the traps, and are you servicing the vacuum or in compressor, whatever. And so uh I don't, it's something that they have to do, but I didn't want to be the one that's going and checking around and every as a big brother. So I don't do
Mm.
that. I've delegated that to my office manager, and she doesn't really do a whole lot of that too. We I've always made it clear to them that um, I don't like to be micromanaging anyone. We're all adults. We're all here uh, to work together as a team, and if we can do that, we'll have success and we'll enjoy the success together. But the moment that we have to start micromanaging and telling you things that you should be doing and you're not doing, then we're gonna have some challenges, And so most of them, we're all on the same page. We're on the same wavelength. They know that we win championships as a team, not one individual,
Mhm.
and we work together, and we need the chemistry that is needed to get there. It's not just pure talent and skill set. And so I think we're all there.
Yeah. Okay, that's good, man. I like that. Rewind a little bit because I know you said you always saw your practice the inside, like the team. You wanted it to be like the next Google, right? And your practice and built like a good culture and vision in the practice. What is your culture like then? Like, what would you say your team? What attracts them? What attracts the patients? What do they say about your practice?
Yeah. So you know, I think culture can be defined in so many different ways, but
Mhm.
what I envisioned was that I would we would have so I guess what we can do. Sorry, my daughter downstairs playing her violin, so um,
No,
but
it's okay.
so what I'm trying to get to is I wanted to have a practice where um, everyone enjoys coming to work. And when I say that, I mean, to a certain degree, everyone, a lot of places people do like going to work and they like their work environment and whatnot. But for me, it was a little more than that. And that's why we created these what's called lifestyle hours. And we work from 7. The office is open from 7 to 3. I work a little less than that. Um, and it's designed where, you know, they can beat the traffic. They come in, and when they're done at 3 o'clock, they can go home and take care of either their family. They can go to the beach. They can go to the gym. They can actually cook a meal and have a meal with their families, and therefore they can enjoy life outside of work on a daily basis. And so I think that makes it very attractive, because at the end of the day, I don't think anyone, I don't know how we got these working hours to be 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. I mean, who made that up? And if everyone follows that, then you're stuck in the same traffic as everybody else. You're going home in the same traffic. You come home and the husband or wife's hungry and the kids are hungry and everyone's, no, none of the duties are done. And I just feel like it's a very tiring or taxing environment, because, by the time you cook, it's 7 o'clock and you eat, and some people watch TV and they just go to bed. You do the same thing day in, day out until the weekend. And I just, for me, that's not how I envision life to be. And
Mhm.
therefore, we created these, like, what you call lifestyle hours that really can benefit our team members, because when they go home and they're well and they build relationships with friends and spouse or family members, then, they come home. I mean, they come back to work refreshed, energized, ready to give it their 110. When we work hard. And when it's time to go to the beach, they can enjoy that without feeling like, you know, they owe something.
Yeah. This is Monday through Friday, those hours?
Monday through Wednesdays, 7 to 3, and
Mhm.
Thursdays, 7 to 12. And Fridays, we don't work.
Dude, this is amazing. Like, I love that. The lifestyle. You're right. You're right. Who did make up 9 to 5?
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
what?
yeah. And if you get stuck in that 9 to 5 that rut, then you are, I mean, think about traffic. Most of the places you got to drive far, and some of them are stuck in an hour one way, hour back. That's 2 hours of your life. That's one whole day of work that you're stuck and you're not paid for.
I know, man. And it's like, so I live in LA, right? And I think about it, and it's like the traffic just to get to one place and then coming back. Like some people never see the sun. Some people never see
Yeah,
the sun. Wow, lifestyle. And you feel like that alone already is like a huge game. Like it's true. Who invented 9 to 5? I don't know, but that's like pretty bad hours, right?
yeah, yeah. It's the funniest thing is, anytime you decrease hours and you decrease not working any days, right? Um, you would think that you would feel the impact financially, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because we all believe that 24 hours a day, if you can work, that's better. But that hasn't, I mean, I can't say too much because I haven't really worked those traditional hours, but I do know that we've exceeded our goals on a regular basis. And as a startup, I would consider our startup to be very successful.
Yeah, man, that's all. So you've adopted these hours since the very beginning, since you opened.
Yeah, so in the beginning we had we worked till Friday, but it was till about 12 on Thursdays and Fridays. So, but then as I started to um have other responsibilities, other duties, and I realized that there's no reason for us to continue to work 5 days when we can do the same with 3.5 days, and probably even better when everyone's fresh and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
It just worked out.
Yeah, that's true. It gives less people less time to do all that other like, you know what I mean? Like where you're kind of almost pretending to be working, like you're busy, but you're not productive, but you're just trying to be there because you're supposed to be there. You know what I mean? And making the
Yeah,
boss
yeah,
happy.
yeah. Exactly. I think you can't give it your 110. Everyone's there about giving about 70%, but they just have to work these long, drawn out hours, and like it's not efficient, nor is it productive. And if it is productive, it's just I think there's a lot of room for unnecessary drama to come into practice if they don't have the time to do other things outside of work. When
Mm-hmm.
they can actually have a meal with their family and enjoy that time, next day they're happy,
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
come,
that's true.
if they don't have that, unless a spouse is hungry and they get into a fight because the kids are watching too much TV, or they're hungry and no one's helping them with their homework and whatnot. You come back, your mind's already not even at work,
Yeah. It's
and I
not,
think
yeah.
it just kind of snowballs, like, and I think um we forget, like how much this can affect the practice.
Yeah. Outside, right? Of like actual work,
Sure. Uh-huh.
bringing it in, like how much it can affect
Yeah.
the practice. That's true, man. You're
Yeah.
right. We do forget that. I like that. I like that a lot. So then with all this happening right now, I mean, like with you, the hours and everything like that, and you're only working like, well, bringing technically in like 3.5 days, right? Um, how many new patients are you guys attracting monthly?
Yeah. So in our the first year and a half, we were probably averaging like between 80 to 100, if
Wow.
sometimes even much more. Um, Initially, we were very focused on uh, marketing through Facebook and Google reviews. I think that was the biggest point. Uh, I kind of did this
Mhm.
with the Facebook ad. I did spend some money to boost some of these content, and then Google, we would just try to get the reviews to help self market, the practice, and I think that has been the key to a lot of our growth, and we don't do that a whole lot these days, just because we are pretty. I would say we should always try to grow, but we're 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 busy as is, and we're
Mhm.
trying to navigate how we're going to deal with the growth that we have to deal with. I brought in an associate in August of this year, so a few months ago, and she has taken the traditional 7 to 3 hours, and then I've taken the 7 to 10 a.m. So I work a few hours a day, and so that has worked out really well.
Man, so you work 79, three, basically like 3 hours, right? Every day up until Friday, and that's it.
No, till no till so I work the 7 to 10 Monday through Wednesdays,
Uh-huh.
and on Thursdays I work the 7 to 12 because she only works 3 days. She doesn't want to work
Oh,
more than
oh,
that. Yeah, my
got you.
associate. Yeah,
Got
yeah,
you. Okay. How'd you find the associate? And then if you don't mind me asking, like what's the pay structure look like for there?
yeah. So I guess maybe we can back up a little. The practice is we have about 30% cash, 30% PPO, 30% uh, 30%, and 30% we call it the state plan. We
Mhm.
call it Quest, and that's their state service. The I found my associate when she was visiting, and she attended church, and she
Mhm.
knew I was a dentist. I knew she was in, so we kind of kept in touch, and we've always said, what are you doing and whatnot. So once she was done with her, she worked in the community health service, getting her loans paid off
Mhm.
out of Arizona. She decided that she would consider a change, and I said, why don't you come out here and just we can work it together. We can be a partner if you want. I mean, for me, I rather just share the workload, and I don't care. We all kind of eat what we kill, and just make it
Mhm.
work. And so I was able to recruit her technically, and she's been here. The pay structure has been guaranteed 600
Mhm.
a day, or 30% of collections. But I do credit her for the X-rays and exams and all these other stuff that some places may not. So uh, on average, she probably earns about 1,000 a day, just because of the workload that's already in existing there. So she seems to be pretty happy, and there are various perks, whether it's the profit sharing, whether it's the 401k, and paid time off, and whatever it may be, or training that we send off. So there are a lot more to it than just the pay itself.
Yeah. That's nice, man. So then production and collection for the practice, what's that kind of looking like month or per
So
month?
yeah, so um, we are slated. We want to hover between 120 130. So We are this year we're closing off. We are probably going to hit about 1.43 in collections.
Wow, man. Dude, that's that. So it's been scaling up every year, right? Basically.
Yes, yes. So it's been scaling about 30% a year, roughly. And keep in mind, it's not that we work more.
Yeah,
We
no.
scaled back, and that's what I mean. Like you can, it's amazing how things work. Like we just work more efficiently, and like when we work, we work. It's not like we work at 65%, 70%. We all hustle, and I have some incentive programs that I created internally that incentivizes everyone to earn more.
What are those incentive programs?
So what I did was I said, okay, this is the number I want to try to reach this year, and that was 1.4. And I said roughly I need 120,000, 120,000 a month in collections. And I also said we also need 10 Google reviews, and this was just recently because we haven't done the Google reviews part. But I said if we hit the 120,000, that means everybody is into the bonus range. So it's a guaranteed payout of $100 each. And
Mm-hmm.
then after that, additional 5,000 means everyone gets an additional $50. So if you get 10,000, everyone gets another $100. So there are times that we can get to like 160, then everyone gets a bigger payout. And this is top down.
Wow,
And
man.
then for the hygiene, it's interesting because typically, we have enough assistants to help the hygienists. We have they work out of two rooms. So I have one hygienist that works with me 4 days and one hygienist that works just one day. So we have one day that we double hygiene. Um, uh, so it's just one day that's a little bit busier with the hygiene, but on a typical day, the hygienist has two rooms to work out of. And so um, we made it, we would, what we would do was, we would schedule 8 patients.
Mm-hmm.
But in this environment, sometimes as many would know and you would know that you can schedule 8 patients, but more often than not all 8 show up.
Yeah.
And I'm committed to paying their hourly wages, and like I'm not going to tell them, okay, now you're going to go on reduced pay structure just because your patient no showed or they cancel last minute, whether it's a family or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that really made it harder because now you got 6-7 patients a day, and then the hygiene wages are going up and their benefits need to go up and whatnot. So that made it tricky, and it works for the hygienist, right? I mean, they're happy, but it didn't really work in terms of the financial part of how we're going to navigate this. So what we did was I said, any patients, if all 8 shows up, then that's typical nationwide average work schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, why don't we schedule 10 patients? Because most of the time we may get to 8. But if all 10 shows up, I would say for each additional patients above 8, you'll get $10.
Mm.
Then
That
that made a huge difference.
really.
Yeah,
So
because prior to that, they would say, "Oh no, 8 is enough. We don't want to see any more patients." But typically, as I mentioned, you schedule 8, now 8 shows up. You know,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
so now that we have this incentive program of like, well, any patients that show up above 8, you get $10. So they're like, yeah, let's firm up the schedule. Let's get 11 in, and we'll get the assistants breaking down rooms, cleaning up rooms, and taking X-rays necessary. So it's not that they're gonna have less time with the patients in terms of their work. They have the same amount. We just have the ancillary staff to help support this growth.
Wow. Okay. So they don't feel like they're being rushed or anything like that. They don't, or did anybody ever say like, hey, Paul, and that's not the case. It's like, we don't have the bandwidth for that or no?
I mean, if you have 2 rooms and you have assistants that are breaking down the rooms, setting up the rooms, sterilizing, taking x-rays, I mean, typically that's all done in 1 hour for, I would say on average hygiene practice. They have to
Mm-hmm.
do all of that. But if that is done by someone else and they just want to, you know, uh, do their part of work, I think there's plenty room and plenty time to do that. And it's really up to them because we said that we can get you the 8 patients, but typically only 6 or 7 will show up. So And everyone's somewhat motivated to earn a little more. And so if you can earn another $30, that increases your hourly rate by like what, $4 or so, which is pretty nice.
Yeah. And then so who keeps do you keep track of all this? Like they all like let's just say every day, like or except for like 3 days out of the month, they decided, like we didn't reach the patient thing. Do you have like a system to track all this or not?
No, no. I mean, it's we just my office manager knows. Okay, this is the day they got bonus. This is the day they didn't get bonus. It's if it should cut both ways, but it doesn't. When I say it should cut both ways, it's sometimes as a practice, whether 8 show up or 5 show up, I mean we still pay the hygiene rate for daily rate, right? And so,
Yeah.
but then when they do well, they have the potential to earn more, and it's not. And yeah, the practice has a potential too, but the practice takes more of the risk than anything else because rain or shine, we still pay out the daily rate.
Yeah, that's true, man. I like that. I like that a lot. Like, and so that's for every single employee. Let's just say they all saw 11 patients that day. Every single employee gets that extra $10 or,
No, no, not no, no. So what it is if they saw, let's say, 11 patients, if the hygienist saw 11 patients, that helps create the production goals for the practice. So everyone indirectly benefits, right? Because if we're
mm,
trying to get to 120, if we're trying to get to 120, um,
mhm.
having hygiene see more patients would help in that regard.
Got
So
you. Got you.
so the other members will get theirs, as a monthly goal, and the hygienists will get theirs through their own individual, numbers.
Yeah. So everybody's like on the same page. Everybody's on the same page, basically, right? Like everybody
Correct.
knows you and says like, or your team members, they're like, because you know how there's those people. I mean, we sometimes I'm like this, Paul, like where you kind of don't want to let the, I don't know, maybe it might be good, but like, you kind of sometimes don't want to let everybody in the team know, like, I want to try and reach 1 million. You know what I mean? Because it's like, what? Well, I'm only going to pay this much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get that. I get that. I see where that is, and it does seem like okay. Well, yeah. I mean, 1.4 million. That's a lot of money to be like playing with,
Mhm.
uh, uh, and I've made it clear that like we all work with the the agreements that we've had. This is what they signed up for, and running the business is really my liability and the risk that I took, and therefore it's really my decision, right? Like any large corporate office, like someone makes 100 million, they don't bat an eye. They don't care less. They realize that they were fortunate, or they put in the risk, and that's where they are. And at least for my team members, none of them would think that way. I do treat them well, and I've always said that you treat me well, I treat you better, and
Yeah.
I've always strived for that, and I think that has that that has helped.
Yeah. That's good, man. That's good. I like that a lot. So then one of the last questions I want to ask you, Paul, is throughout this process, from the moment you decided to design your own plan, right? Like as far as the build out till today, what's been some of the biggest struggles or fails or pitfalls you've encountered?
I think it's how to manage growth. If it's a small, 3-man team, it's relatively easier, in terms of the financial uh, overhead liabilities. It's easier if you decide to take a day off. You're not burdened with just this whopping overhead of payroll. Um, so I think the growth is also hard because you're trying to get everyone on the same page, all the team members to understand the culture and how do we do things. And anytime we lose someone after we invested a lot of money and time and training on, we feel like we're back to square one, and which
Mm-hmm.
sometimes happens. And I think that constant change in the industry makes it pretty hard because, yeah, unfortunately, uh, some people just can't really make a career out of some of these entry level positions. Especially if we are training them and we're waiting for them to really blossom. They'll get there as they continue to hone their skills and they bring added value to the team and the practice. But initially, it may take over a year for them to really get to a point where they are bringing in, something that's more tangible.
Yeah. Got you. So maybe like managing then, right? Basically everything at once
Correct.
is kind of like the most difficult struggle right now. Do you feel like you're kind of making your way out of that a little bit or not?
Yeah, I think although I only work a few hours, I do a lot of thinking. I still do a lot of I actually order my own supplies still, So yeah, I do carry on some of the work that I should be delegating, but I just, I don't know, maybe I'm too controlling in that regard. Like I like certain things and I like to make sure that I'm getting the best value for it, whether I buy 100 of the same thing or whatnot. And until I can find someone who I can train, which I haven't yet, just because of the changes in our team, that we're not quite there yet. But yeah, I mean, managing people can be one of the hardest things, because everyone feels like they bring a lot more than the realities might be. And it's hard because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and there is that part where when the cat's away, the mice want to play.
Mhm.
It's just hard, and there is that. That's why the trust needs to be there, and the ability to have them uh, work on their own, not be micromanaged, is such a key part for me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Especially that's why I think you always look for honesty first, right? Like that's what you do for your practice, your team members, right? When it comes to
Yes.
because I feel like if they're big on that, then the trust kind of can kind of fall into place a little bit better, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Because if you're always doubting, and if they're not honest, that means you got to exert more energy to check, right? And that's more time and headache.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Awesome, Paul. Thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure. But before we say goodbye, can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Well, I practice in the island of Kauai, so if any of you come visit the beautiful Garden Island, whether it's for honeymoon or vacation, come let me know and stop by. I'll take you out to lunch.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it, Paul. Thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure, and we'll hear from you soon.
All right, Michael. Nice chatting with you.